Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and this is the Real 50 Over 50. And this week, we have the incomparable Susie deVille. She is the award-winning author of Buoyant, and she is the founder and CEO of the Innovation and Creativity Institute. And she is one of the magical women in my life, and I am so happy to share her with you today. So I'm just going to let her fill in the blanks on the intro, and then we're going to dive into a great conversation. So if you're here live, get into the comments. If you're watching on a replay, put comments in and we will swing back and respond. So Susie, welcome.
Thank you so much. Of course, I love being here with you, my birthday sister, my partner in crime, my creative auxiliary brain. As Donna said, I am the founder and CEO of the Innovation and Creativity Institute, and I help entrepreneurs and visionary leaders connect with their creativity, home in on who they truly are, and unlock their entrepreneurial potential. And my favorite thing in the world is to go out in the woods and soak up all the inspiration that I possibly can and have my meditation time, my making something time, my time with my sweet golden retriever. And then I just dive in every day and try to do what I always encourage my clients to do, which is to cross the threshold into my creativity into new and courageous ways.
And she does all of those things. Okay, so I'm just going to start with like what happened to you when you turned 50, and then we're going to get into some other things. But this, I mean, I really believe that when we turn 50, something changes inside of us. And
I think I turned 50 a little early. So that was 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I was in, let's see, um, I was on the outside of my nuclear winter period. So in 2008, I entered into what I lovingly refer to as my nuclear winter period when everything in my life imploded. My finances, my marriage, my health, everything. And so I made a decision and a promise that if I were to extricate myself from the various messes I was in, then I would reach back and help as many people as I could. It was sort of my Scarlett O'Hara carrot over the head moment. As God is my witness, I will help as many people as I possibly can. And so my nuclear winter period, while it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, turned out to be one of the most important and beneficial and creative times because everything that I learned during that period ultimately became my revised coaching methodology, which this fabulous woman helped me name, which is the Creative Rebels Voyage. And it also became the principles that ultimately became my book, Buoyant. So, those times when we're sort of in the flames or the quicksand, that can be the best kind of crucible of all for us.
yeah, I hear you. And, there's ups and there's downs. And I know that we are both fans of the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And you have to recognize when you're up against that barrier and and push through. And a quick shout out to Stephanie. Thank you for joining us from Harlem. I'm so happy to see you here. And okay, so now I promised that I had a surprise for Susie. So over the years, we've worked with each other, we've helped each other, I mean, like we're connected on so many levels. And in 2018, I helped Susie name her methodology. She had all of this amazing stuff that she was doing, but it was all in these silos. And we worked together and we pulled everything together. And in the middle of that, I took Seth Godin's Alt MBA program. And one of the things that I received in that program was this book that you can tell I kind of like this. I think there's 80 pages in this book. There's 173 tabs. But when I read this book, we were in the middle of doing Susie's work, and many of these tabs have Susie's name on it. So yesterday, I just reached out and this book jumped into my hands and I read it again yesterday. So what I did was I pulled a couple of the passages that were meant for Susie in 2018, and I thought it would be fun to kind of talk through them and see how they hit you now and like if it mattered.
Perfect.
And it'll lead into other conversations too, but there was a reason this book jumped into my hand yesterday. So we'll start here. This is one. It said you have to own, well, Seth said, not it said. You have to own the purpose and the outcome of your work.
So I think I might disagree a little bit with that.
Yeah, good. No, this is a conversation.
So the reason why is, and perhaps he doesn't mean it in the way that I'm interpreting it. I think it's a little bit constrictive to tie purpose and outcome to all of the work that we do, because we have a lot of pressure for our staying sort of inside the lines of who we think we should present ourselves to be in the world. Also, we have a lot of what I call external concrete that's layered onto us from very well meaning parents and teachers and peers and people who have helped to shape us in our lives. But there's a lot that has come onto us that's not really who our authentic selves are. And sometimes it's
Mhm.
hard to separate those two things out. And that's the beauty, one of the beauties of creativity, is that it helps chisel that concrete of others, what is not us, off of us. And how we get to those fruits of creativity is to not be concerned about the outcome of what we make,
Mhm.
because it's the making, it's the process of making that actually fosters the transformation within us. It connects us to our intuition, our imagination, our ideation, our problem solving ability, as well as our courage and our clarity and our ability to articulate what it is that we truly want to say. So, owning outcome, I think, can give us a pressure of, oh, what I make has to be great. Um, and all of my coaching clients and students grapple, and I do too. We grapple with this all the time. Oh, I don't know if I really like it or not. I don't really know if it's any good. But
Mhm.
that's not the point of getting into your creative thrash and playing. It's about connecting and aligning with your true self and expressing yourself and discovering what you didn't even know at the beginning.
Okay, and Susanna just weighed in. She loves chisel what is not us off of us. Good. And Susan is here from New Jersey.
Yay.
So I'm just gonna I'm gonna go with one more Seth um, passage here. Change comes from artists and artists ship. When Seth Godin talks about shipping, he talks about putting your work out into the world. And we show up as professionals again and again.
So read the first part to me one more time.
Change comes from artists and artists ship.
So this I 100% agree with. And I would like to take a second here to define what artist means, because that word sort of strikes terror into most people's hearts who don't consider themselves an artist. They will define that as someone who is producing fine artwork, or someone who can sketch something or paint something that looks exactly like the subject. And that was actually how I used to define art and art making, being an artist. Well, if my sketch of the horse looks like a coffee table, I don't have a prayer of being an artist or not really creative. And so many of us have art scars and creativity shaming experiences that stay with us over the decades. And so we'll get into our 50s and still believe what we believed when we were 8, that this world of being an artist is not for us.
Mm.
And so I want to encourage everyone to embrace the idea that you are already an artist, and it's just a matter of setting yourself free and uncorking what is innately inside each and every one of us, and then having some fun opportunities to express yourself, and again, detach from quote unquote the outcome and embrace what happens to you during the process.
Yeah. And
Um,
I can attest that is 1,000% true, because I did not believe I had an artistic bone in my body, because my brother is a world-class photographer, and there was no room for any more of that in the family. But Susie saw something in me many years ago, and she held that space. And I joined her sketchbook, her entrepreneur sketchbook course a couple of months ago, and I created this. And it is
Yay!
pages and pages and pages of art of that it's not going to be in a museum anywhere, but what it did was it opened my brain in a whole different way. And my brain learned that it can do art, create art, and it doesn't need to mean anything to anybody other than me. And the way I think about it is, she sees the artist before we see the artist. And she is there as a guide, as a coaxer, as a cheerleader, until we have the safety and the courage to pull on that artist's cloak for ourselves and say, yeah, I'm an artist. This is what I do. This is my art. And going through that process um, was what created everything that I'm creating now. I mean, I created two massive things. This 50 over 50, the real 50 over 50, and my bevisible.club. It was all in my head, and it all came out like right after that, or during. It was actually during that process. It all came out. And that was because, like, these little doors just open up and everything comes rushing out and finds its own place.
What I love, and thank you for saying all of that. What I love about your experience is that it so perfectly um, shows and defines what the power of just moving our hands does to all of our neural pathways. There's some wonderful science that backs all of this up. And the deeper I go into this world of neuroscience and the connection to creativity, the more I am just so overwhelmed with how powerful it is. And I sort of feel like I'm on a mission to debunking all of the myths that we have around creativity and around our own particular perception of our quote unquote talent. Um, you are already talented. It's all in there. All that happened for Donna in the Sketchbook Entrepreneur Masterclass was that she had the community, she had the creativity supplies, she had some instruction, but she did all of that and unleashed what artist and author Linda Berry says is this magical thing that happens when you're making art. Something is coming down from your head, through your arm, through your hand, onto the paper, and something is coming up from the paper through your hand, up through your arm, into your shoulder, and up into your brain. There are two things going on, lots of dot connecting. So those notions and subconscious ideas and sort of what I call your creativity back channels, all of that comes alive and starts to connect and starts to surface and get very clear. And so it's so liberating to play around in lots of different creative media and do it especially in a group, because then you can see what's happening for everybody.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yes. That's key.
Okay, so let's do a little talking now about your trip. Susie just came back from 4 months traipsing around Europe.
It was wonderful. So I started in Paris. I had a wonderful entrepreneur and friend meet me there for a VIP coaching experience, and spent several days there just on my own, playing and eating great food. And then went on to Nice, where I have been before, and I chose to stay in Nice for a little over a month. And I just parked right over the Mediterranean on this balcony and stared at blue water that becomes this jewel tone because all of the limestone cliffs that surround the Nice hillsides, when it rains, that limestone goes into the water and then it changes the color of the water to this incredible bluish greenish color. So I just sat there and looked at boats and I painted. I took an art class while I was there, and I just walked all over creation,
Mm.
learned as much French as I possibly could, and took a lot of pictures and explored. And then I went to England, to the western part of London for a month during the craziness of the coronation, and then finished in Italy. I spent a month in Bellagio, or excuse me, a week in Bologna, and then 3.5 weeks in Bellagio.
Mm. It just was so much fun to follow that. Okay, so now we have Peggy Pepper is here,
Oh,
and she
Peggy.
wants to hear more about the sketchbook course and your book, because she's leading a book club for 30 women who want their dreams to become a tangible business.
Well, wonderful. Well, Peggy, hello, my dear. So the Sketchbook Entrepreneur Masterclass is a 6-week course. It's taught live, and we meet over Zoom, so you can join us from wherever you are in the world. We meet from noon to 1 on Mondays and Thursdays, and that's Eastern time. And it is a deep dive into art practices as well as some entrepreneurial strategic coaching and instruction. So, what it surfaces in you is a lot of clarity and confidence, especially around your messaging and your ideas as to with whom you want to work in the world and exactly how you want to connect with them through the work that you came here to do. What matters most to you? What brings you alive like nothing else? So we are doing all kinds of art. We have a sketchbook that we work in, and it kind of becomes your logbook of your voyage over this 6-week period. And it's filled with notes and ideas and all kinds of collage and paint and crayons and mess. And out of this crucible of creativity comes a new confidence and a new ability to kind of set perfectionism aside, of which I used to be a card carrying member of that club.
I
I still
remember.
have tendencies, still have to work on that. Um, but we lose this sort of idea that we have to kind of overachieve our way into having value and worth. And we release that and we move into this state of bold action and courage and a ton of clarity around who it is we want to work with and what it is that we want to teach to them and how we want to present that message in the world. So it all kind of starts to come together in a new way. And we learn how we're wired to take action and then how to really manage our energy. We don't talk about managing time or how to be productive. We really talk about how to manage energy. And that sort of sets people on a brand new course in their life and in their business. And good old Buoyant, which I happen to have a copy of right here.
An 87 behind you.
I wrote this
Mm.
for entrepreneurs and creators who are stuck and painfully riddled with self-doubt, who believe that the path to the success that they crave is more work and discipline and knuckling down. And so I show in the book a much easier path, which is by connecting to your innate creativity. And it's filled with exercises and fun things to do. And so if it's a path of getting your own journal and taking your own sort of adventure, Buoyant will guide you all the way through that. And then, of course, the Sketchbook Entrepreneur Masterclass is a wonderful adjunct to that. And it's a much deeper dive. And you have a lot of one group experiences in that as well. So they work beautifully together.
Now, when I was driving, when your book came out, I was driving to Canada, and I got the Audible version, and I'm listening on the way, and I stopped to visit my son at school. And so stop the book, get out of the car, go visit with him, and he frustrated the hell out of me. And
Can't
I
imagine.
got back in the car, and I literally said, "Let's see what Susie has to say about this." And I put the book back on, and you went right into that part of the book where you talk about a very similar situation with your son, who's he was a few years ahead of mine, and you told me exactly how I needed to handle it.
And I want to you just reminded me of something because, yes, I wrote the book for entrepreneurs and creators. What I am finding is that Generation Z is coming to me in unexpected droves who are telling me, your book has shown me a new hope. I now believe that I can fit into the world. I didn't believe the world was designed at all to resemble anything that I was passionate about or
Mhm.
interested in. And now I know I can design this myself, and I know the steps to take in order to do that.
Yeah.
So I encourage anyone who has um, a youngster or a friend or a family member who may feel a little lost right now. I'm hearing this from parents over and
Mhm.
over and over again. There are a lot of kids who don't want to do the sort of classic academic track, or they don't want to do community college. They're not quite sure what to do. Um, I think that there's an opportunity to help kids begin this journey with a lot more self awareness and a lot more understanding of who they truly are. And creativity and tapping into it, building that musculature is such a powerful um, and empowering way to help folks,
Yeah,
especially when they're getting started.
and truly understanding that there's more than one way for everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's my gut tells me is that the things that the majority of these Generation Z kids are going to be doing doesn't even
It
exist
doesn't
yet.
exist yet. Yeah, of course.
And they intuit that. I can sense that they see that the world is shifting at such a
Mhm.
dramatic pace, and that these old institutions are no longer going to be viable or relevant. And I think they're trying to figure out how to carve their own paths forward for
Yeah,
sure.
I agree totally. Yeah, yeah, just, we're getting some comments here. Stephanie's weighing in. Love this for you, Susie. A shout out from Gen Z is huge. So glad it connected with them. They're so hungry for this. And Lee says, such a critical group to help. So happy they have answers through you. And one of the practices that my son and I have taken up since I did this class with you was I have a bin of all of the art supplies that's sitting on a chair in the dining table, and we don't really use the dining table for much. So whenever like we have to have a conversation around something, and it's like it's starting to go into a struggle realm, I'm like, let's go sit at the table and draw while we talk. And I just pull out a couple of sheets from the book, and off we go. And then the conversation just flows, and it takes that pressure off.
Yes. The other thing that's happening too is when the brain is engaged in an activity of either listening or speaking and the hands are moving at the same time.
Hmm.
There's an interesting thing that happens. So, if you notice, if you listen to a podcast while you're taking notes about it or drawing or doodling, you're receiving that information in a much more clear, indelible, memorable way because the hands are moving.
Hmm.
Um, when we're having these conversations, my trick used to be to get my son in the kitchen with me and
Yeah.
chopping vegetables.
Oh, yeah.
And with his back, toward the with his, he's facing
Mhm.
away. He doesn't feel like he's
He's
under the
under a
light bulb.
microscope. Yeah.
And he's got he's sitting there with the knife and the carrots or the whatever it is and the cutting board, and he's chopping away, and he's like, what happened today that was so
Mhm.
weird? And I'm like,
Mhm.
do tell. um, those kinds of things would not come out
Yeah.
unless we were in the kitchen together. And so
Mhm.
it's those activities, and I'm so glad that you both have that opportunity to connect on such a deeper level where the pressure's off,
Mhm.
and the communication can really flow much
Mhm.
more easily.
Yeah. And he is an artist, so he feels like he doesn't fit in so many of these, predefined worlds, and it really helps him express himself.
And the thing is that I don't think any of us really fit into these predefined worlds. I think that some of us got
Mm.
pretty good at pretending,
Yeah.
but I don't see it working out for anybody who's on that kind of little conveyor belt of first you have to do this and then you have to do this and then you have to do this, and if you don't do it in the right order and at the right speed and get the
Yeah.
right pieces of
And on
paper,
a
there's no hope.
Tuesday.
Exactly. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like all of the things that I've been waiting for are lining up now.
and isn't it interesting when we get that clarity that we start making subconscious and conscious decisions that steer us 3 degrees left, 1 degree right, and we just kind of know where to put our feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that we know all of the answers by any stretch of the imagination, but we have a lot more willingness to do the unknown thing, the uncertain thing. And that just keeps us making progress. And
Mhm.
sometimes we'll make a colossal mess of things. I
Mhm.
do that regularly. But there's always kind of I don't judge any of that anymore. I used to be so self-critical if it didn't have didn't work out a certain way. And now it's not like I'm thrilled if something flops. um, but I have a such better sort of tolerance for doing the thing that I have no idea how to do, and letting the action of just moving through this process teach me how to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect talent.
I wrote something this morning. It says, when we look to others for inspiration, we're not looking to copy. We're looking to find validation that it can be done. It's proof that they did it, so can I.
Absolutely. I love it. Absolutely. It reminds me of the fella who ran the 6-minute mile, up until the point that he did it. Everybody said it was impossible. And then he did it. And then right after that, a bunch of people did it. So it's not like all of a sudden, the aliens came down and gave
Yeah.
people amazing,
Yeah.
running physiques. It was just the mental
Hmm.
understanding that, oh, hey,
It
that's
can be
possible.
done. Yeah, it can be
Um, and speaking of which, I've had over, now I'm up to almost 40 people who have told me through text messages or emails or Facebook posts or whatever that they now are going to plan a big adventure,
done.
just like I just took. And I am so excited about that, to see how people interpret this kind of a trip, this kind of an adventure in their
Mhm.
own way, whatever they want to do. And I highly, highly recommend going for it.
Yeah. Um, it's amazing. I spent a month in Costa Rica last year, and actually almost 2 years ago, and it was incredible to be able to go someplace for an extended period of time and just cut off from so many things. Um, and just to swing back to what we were just talking about
Hmm.
is like, what you were talking about, making mistakes and not getting caught up in the drudgery of a predefined world. Um, I think that when you experience this after the age of 50, there's a level of life experience, wisdom, um, I don't care, that all swirls together around it. And um, it benefits so many people because we push through because we know, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? We do something wrong. We know that through the process we're going to learn more than we fail, and then we do this as an example for other people. So what happens when you do this? Other people are seeing it too. There's more people running that 6-minute mile.
Mm.
And like, how can the world change through that? And that fascinates me every single day.
One of my favorite ways to describe what I do when people ask me is that I go out in search of experiences and adventures and knowledge and transformational moments. And I scoop up all of the learning that I possibly can. And then I come back to the campfire and I dump my backpack out and I say, okay, let me show you what I found. Let me show you what I figured out. Um, because it is one level to go and do this and have this experience yourself, which is totally delicious. And there's something entirely different that happens when you come back and you share it, and you get to experience it again in a different kind of a way. And then you can watch how it ripples through other people's hearts and minds,
Mhm.
and sets of willingness to go do their own thing, whatever that is. And I believe that this is how you change the world. We're just sort of inspiring people to become the most authentic, most free versions of themselves. And they're then wanting to help other people do the same thing in whatever field they're in, whatever
Mhm.
industry that they're in.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter.
Not at all.
It's about opening the doors.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just wanna we're kind of over time, but I
Sure.
just wanna share, um, how incredibly proud I am of you and for you,
Oh,
because we've been on this path together for a long time, and when you started, you had all of these pieces that would just they were around you almost like Stonehenge.
yes.
Nothing was
True.
connected, and
Yes.
now they've all come together, and it's so you, and I mean, like, it's just everything. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's just everything, like your Stonehenge has come together.
Well, thank you so much, and I love that image. It was, I had some moments where I, paced around in my pajamas when I was writing, like, the ninth draft of my book,
Oh, I know.
and I was trying to figure out how all these things fit together, and then I could see it, and when
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
come together. So I just really want to recommend to everybody who's working on something right now where you're at your edge, where you feel like it's just too dang hard. You are so right up against figuring it out. That's the place. If you can sustain being in that space of not knowing and feeling like
Mhm,
it's too hard, it's going to collapse into itself and show
mm,
you how it all
mhm.
connects.
Yeah, that's it right there. It will collapse into itself. That's exactly what just happened with me. And, it really is, and that's from the book, The Big Leap. You have to keep going. You can't give up because most of the people that are just at the edge of success back away because it gets too hard, but they're right there, and they never even knew that they were right there.
And the best of our brain power will come online right at
Mhm.
that edge.
Yes, if you allow it.
Yes.
If you allow it. You have to learn how to dance with that fear.
Yeah.
Wait, let's see,
Not
we've
my
got a
favorite thing.
no, but it's gotta be done. And Susanna says, "It's been a wonderful conversation. She came to the arts in an almost accidental entrepreneurship
Oh,
and, thought she had to abandon her artistic side to do business. The more she embraces her creative nature and let it show up in her work, the more she enjoys what she does and the more success she enjoys. She just ordered your book."
oh, thank you so much, and
Wonderful.
congratulations
Yes.
on that success.
Yeah, and the work that she does is really important. She's a movement expert, and she's got a Pilates studio, and, she helps people move their bodies, so they move through that energy. So she's
Absolutely.
it's
That's
an it's important.
amazing.
Great,
Wonderful.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Susanna. Okay, so we need to wrap this up. If you have any other comments, put them in. If you're listening on the replay, we'll come back, tag us, and we'll come back and keep the conversation going and connect with Susie. She is, at innovationandcreativity institute.com. Plus, she's got a page on the Real 50 Over 50 website, and this video will be there as well. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Susie, for
Thank
spending some time
you.
today and sharing yourself.
Thank
And we
you.
will be back next week.
Thanks, everybody.